I would like to start the response by inviting a distinguished agricultural economist from the World Bank, Senor Diego Arias Carballo.
Thank you, Ambassador Johnson. On behalf of the World Bank, we would like to thank IICA and the OAS for inviting us today. As it has been quoted many times today, 3/4 of the poor live in rural areas. Most of them are involved in farming, and agriculture has, after many studies, evidence is clear that agriculture is a key instrument for poverty reduction, economic growth, and also environmental sustainability. I'm going to briefly go over some of the global opportunities and challenges that we at the World Bank observe today in agriculture, and then go over some of the few areas that we would like to propose to concentrate on. First, we observe that there's a change in diets in developing countries, which pose an opportunity for value-added products. Meat and horticulture consumption has been growing, as well as exports from developing countries. We see that also there's been a reduction in the taxation to agriculture, and this means that there's less taxes such as export taxes, as well as a policy bias against agriculture being reduced as economies develop and become more urbanized. We see that there's been technological innovations that pose opportunities for agriculture, risk management innovations in terms of insurance products and financial instruments such as agriculture insurance, as well as some of the advances in strengthening producer organizations and public-private partnerships in agriculture. There's also been an increase in non-agriculture income in rural areas in many of these countries, which is also an opportunity for poverty reduction and economic growth. But there are still many challenges, and one of them is that there still remains global trade distortions in the agriculture sector globally. Real international commodity prices are still being suppressed, and this affects negatively developing countries that depend on many of these commodities. We also observe that there's an increase in land and water constraints. Cropland per capita is decreasing in many regions, and the percentage population in absolute water scarcity is also increasing. And the challenges are how to make these economic growth development objectives be pro-poor. And here we stress the challenge of linking smallholders, like Ambassador Johnson was referencing to new markets, and improving and protecting these assets of poor farmers and vulnerable farmers, especially women. We also observe a challenge with respect to developing countries in the weaknesses that still exist in governance and institutional capacity. In particular, now ministries of agriculture and the public sector in general is being presented with new roles, new coordinations, and global challenges like climate change, animal health, and trade and global trade. But another big challenge that is very much under the control of the public sector in developing countries is the agriculture spending. And we see that agriculture-based countries spend relatively less money in agriculture, public goods and services, such as research and development. But we also observed that subsidies in relation to public sector investments in agriculture had been increasing, and public sector goods and services have been decreasing. So here there is a rethinking that needs to take in place to see how these public sector resources are allocated. But the World Bank and other donor organizations are not off the hook, in the sense that also we see that the overseas development assistance have been decreasing since the 90s to agriculture. So what are the global challenges, just to resume, to summarize, that at the World Bank we are thinking about? First is that agriculture has been evidenced to be an effective tool in reducing poverty, but there is this support that is missing to make small farmers particularly be linked to markets. There's also that food crop demand is expanding, but food crop growth yields are decreasing. There's the challenge of climate change, and although agriculture is part of the problem, it is also part of the solution. So the idea of taking agriculture as an opportunity is very important in the issue of climate change. As economies transform and grow, there is an opportunity for agriculture incomes to reduce this income gap between rural and urban areas, and therefore temper some of the social tensions that rise from this inequality. And finally, given the recent food and financial crisis, a big challenge is how to manage these increased volatile grain prices that reduce purchasing power both for farmers and consumers. So the World Bank, we propose 5 areas to concentrate on going forward. The first one is how to raise agriculture productivity. The second one is how to link farmers, particularly small and vulnerable, to markets. The third one is reducing risk and vulnerability. Fourth is facilitating what we call agriculture factor markets and rural non-farm income. And the fifth one is enhancing environmental sustainability, in particular climate change. In the first area of agriculture productivity, the objective is to reverse this trend in the decline of global crop yield growth rates. And some of the areas that we propose to work on is in improving the technology, agriculture technology, water management, and investing in research and development for technology generation. The second area in terms of linking small farmers to markets and strengthening value chains, here is a map of Africa and Latin America on the number of hours for farmers to reach local markets. In this sense, we would like to focus on expanding rural infrastructure, continue to support the Doha trade round, and improving access to financing so that these farmers can reach the market with their products, especially in particular value-added products.